Hello and welcome to my channel. So today I was thinking of doing a little reading from this book which is called Research Methods, Practical Guide for the Social Sciences by Bob Matthews and Liz Ross. So let's have a look in the book. And we'll start with Part A, Thinking about Research. So, there is a sense in which we are all researchers. Every day we pose questions and we look for or research the answers. How do I get to the sports centre? What shall I have for lunch? Where shall we go on our holidays? Why have I got a headache? In some cases we know where to find the answer. In other cases we may have to search or investigate the topic in more depth in order to locate our answer. How we find out more will depend on the resources, books, maps, internet, and so on. We have the people we can ask and our previous experience of the topic. While we are all familiar with this day-to-day personal researching, it can only help us prepare a little for the demands and challenges of social research, which will enable us to ask questions and gain knowledge and understanding of the social world of which we are a part. In this chapter we introduce some of the key characteristics of such research and consider what we mean by research quality. The what of research. Think about it. Why research is important. Research in the social sciences is something very special, a process we use to understand our world in a way that goes far beyond simple description, common sense, or anecdote. Pole and Lampard, 2002. It is easier to talk about how to do research than what it is. In part, that is because we all think we know what research is, so we often do not feel any necessity to define it clearly. This is not always helpful. The how of research is the primary purpose of this book, so we do not intend to discuss it here. Research does not always give us the results we expect or want. Something J.R.R. Tolkien, author of Lord of the Rings, noted when he reputedly said, "There is nothing like looking. If you want to find something, you certainly usually find something. If you look, but it is not always quite the something you were after." At the most basic level, research is the process we undertake when we have a question to an answer, we need to acquire knowledge, we want to extend our understanding of the social world. Just typing some notes, bear with me. Definitions of research. Just as research is carried out in a variety of contexts and by people with quite different understandings of and reasonings for conducting research, so there are a variety of ways in which research itself is defined. We offer just a selection in the What Is box on page 8. What is research? The systematic, controlled, empirical and critical investigation of hypothetical propositions about presumed relations among natural phenomena. Kerlinger, 1970. Research for the purpose of RAE, which is the research assessment exercise which is used to judge the value of research undertaken by UK universities, is to be understood as original investigation undertaken in order to gain knowledge and understanding. It includes work of direct relevance to the needs of commerce, industry, and to the public and voluntary sectors. Scholarship, the invention and generation of ideas, images, performances, artifacts including design, where these lead to new or substantially improved insights, and the use of existing knowledge in experimental development to produce new or sustainably improved materials, devices, products and processes, including design and construction. It excludes routine testing and routine analysis of materials, components and processes, such for the routine analysis of materials, components, bear with me, such as distinct from the development of new analytical techniques. It excludes routine testing and routine analysis of materials, components and processes, such as for the maintenance of national standards, as distinct from the development of new analytical techniques. It also excludes development of teaching materials that do not embody original work. Research is a step-by-step process that involves collecting and examining information. We do research to improve our knowledge and understanding about the world we live in. In most cases, it almost always involves finding out something new. A search or investigation directed to the discovery of some fact by careful consideration or study of a subject, a course of critical or scientific inquiry, to search into a matter or subject, to investigate or study closely. What do the definitions have in common? In each definition above, research is identified as a process or practice by which we can extend our knowledge or find answers to our questions. Crucially, this process is transferable. That is, it is not unusually specific to either the research topic or to the researcher. This is a blessing. At least we do not have to reinvent the wheel each time we start a new piece of research. The why of research. Research is undertaken for many reasons. Perhaps we have an idea and we want to know if it is true. For example, we might believe that house burglaries are more frequent when there is an increase in unemployment. But until we collect and analyse data to prove or disprove this notion, we cannot know for sure. But we might want to use research for other things too. We might, for example, want to establish the reasons that some particular event took place, or we might want to understand more about how people react to social stimuli. There is really no limit to what research can do, though there are outside factors such as time and money that constrain our ability to do so. Characteristics of research. In many ways, the process of research is quite simple. In its simplest form, it can be thought of as having only 3 components. Number 1, the question. Number 2, the research process. Number 3, the answer. Of course, it is item 2 that is the most complex and is the main purpose of this book, though research questions are critically important too and are discussed in several chapters of this book, particularly A4. What is the nature of research? The nature of research is structured and purposeful, both in gathering and interpreting data. Rigorous, robust and defensible, systematic. The nature of research is not simply gathering information or facts, though this may be an important component of the process. Divorced from practical life, Some research deals with abstract ideas or theoretical development. Other types change the real world and our experience of it, often for the better. Structured and purposeful. Research is not something that just happens. It should always have a purpose. This does not necessarily mean that the results of research have to have a practical application, though many do. The search for abstract knowledge is also a valid reason to research. This does not mean that description, anecdote, or common sense are useless. They make a significant contribution to our understanding of the world, but research should provide knowledge that is robust, defensible, and useful. Pohl and Lampard, 2002. Rigorous. Research should be strictly and scrupulously planned and conducted, not just in the obvious areas of data collection and analysis, but also in such things as design and ethical considerations. Systematic. This crucial term simply means that everything that is examined in the research, this could be people or cases or data sets for example, is treated in the same way. More than gathering facts. Research is not just gathering facts and or data together and describing them. It is much more than this, and is usually focused on explanation as well as description. Quality in research. In order that we can say that our research is rigorous and robust, we need to consider the quality of the issue of quality. What is a quality piece of research? Research can vary considerably depending on the topic, the theoretical approach taken, the choice of data collection methods, and so on. But there are some key concepts that help researchers to ensure that their research meets the quality standards expected by other researchers, and, in the case of students, those marking their research projects. Real research quality criteria in research. Becker et al. 2006 undertook a complex research project to identify quality in social policy research. They used mixed methods, including an online survey and focus groups. The population was made up of social policy academics. They published a table which ranks 35 quality criteria. The top 5 were: research written in ways that are accessible to appropriate audiences, research design that clearly addresses the research question, transparency in data collection and analysis, a clear statement of how the research project was conducted, that the research makes a contribution to knowledge. Quality concepts. In social research, there are 4 key aspects to research quality, and these will be introduced here and discussed further in A3. They form the basis of the research quality checks, which you will find at key stages throughout the book. Reliability or dependability, also sometimes called replicability. In essence, the question to ask of your research is: can my results be replicated by other researchers using the same methods? In the natural sciences, for example, physics or chemistry, researchers would usually expect to get exactly the same results for the same experiment. In the social sciences, we mostly deal with people, not chemicals or falling weights. Every person is an individual and different. For this reason, no sane social science researcher would expect exactly the same result, but it should be similar for similar groups of people. Importantly, this means that reliable research is not researcher specific. It should be possible for any researcher to use the same methods on a similar group of people to achieve similar results. What are we concerned with in social research is that another researcher would expect to obtain the same findings if they carried out the research in the same way, or the researcher would expect to obtain the same findings if she tried again in the same way. The concept of dependability is related and is often referred to in relation to qualitative research methods, but is applicable to most research approaches. This usually applies to consistency in research practice. For example, ensuring that all data is included and that no data is lost through unreliable audio recorders or inaccurate transcribers. The reliability and dependability of a piece of research is demonstrated through the research process and the decisions made by the researcher being transparent and available to others for scrutiny. Validity and credibility. This apparently simple concept is really asking the question, am I researching the thing that I think I am? And are the data that I am gathering relevant to my research question? Will they help me to get an answer to my research question or test my hypothesis? Here, the concern is with the researcher's decision about what data to gather and interpretation of the data gathered. It usually refers to whether or not the researcher is measuring and finding out what she thinks she is and how that relates to her research question. The related concept is credibility. The credibility or believability of the researcher's interpretations of the data she has gathered is tested by the transparency of the analysis and the interpretation of the data. For example, by testing out the interpretation of the data with the research participants, or by setting the interpretations alongside existing theory. Generalizability and transferability refer to the question, how far am I able to claim that the results or findings from my research are true for or relevant to the wider population or a different context? For some research, the claims will depend on a statistical demonstration that findings from a sample can be regarded as more or less true for the population as a whole. In other cases, the claim that finding from one context or time can be transferred or say something about another context or time can be demonstrated by reference to relevant theory or other research. It is important to recognise that small-scale research can still have value, though it can rarely claim to be generalisable. It is equally important not to claim more for your research findings than can be clearly demonstrated to the satisfaction of other researchers. Ethical practice. Here we are asking the question, have I given full consideration to the way I behave as a researcher with respect to the other human beings who are involved in my research? Social research practice involves the participation of human beings and working with information about people. A quality piece of research can demonstrate that due consideration has been given to the ethics concerning research behaviour, the possible impact of the research on the research participants, and the honesty and care of the researcher. For some researchers, this would include considering the value of the research in terms of its potential benefit to the research participants, or, more widely, to particular groups of people, and making the findings as widely available as possible. are social researchers. Everybody who has ever asked a question about the way we live, how something happens, or why, is a researcher of sorts. However, as we say above, research is about much more than asking or even answering questions. It is about the way we do it. Social researchers are everywhere. They work for local and central government, for charities, schools, clubs, football teams, etc. However, to be a good researcher takes time and effort and an understanding of the quality issues involved. Doing social research isn't always easy. There are many difficult issues that we have to deal with along the way. The rest of this book tells you about them and how to overcome them successfully. With perseverance, however, comes success. Some useful things to remember. Research is a process. Research has to be planned. It does not happen by accident. Facts and data are not necessarily the same as knowledge. Description is not the same as explanation. Research must be robust and rigorous. It must be capable of withstanding criticism and challenge from individuals and organisations who may not agree with the methods used or the findings produced. Chapter A2: Knowledge, Theories, Paradigms and Perspectives. Where do we start? As we saw in A1, we are all researchers. Most people will be familiar with the idea of researching a topic for an assignment, or researching about something you want to buy, or a holiday you want to go on. We are all everyday researchers, wanting to find out the facts, or what someone else thinks of something or somebody, from a new girlfriend to the government's policy on nuclear power. If you are researching a topic for an assignment, you will probably be looking for a mixture of different types of information, perhaps in the form of statistics, the opinions and ideas of key academics and researchers in that area, the theories or sets of ideas that seem to underpin the way the topic is seen and understood. And depending on your discipline, you may be interested to find out more about, for example, the government's policy on this topic, the economics related to that topic, the specific cultural aspects, and so on. When you gather information for an assignment, you are selecting that which will help you address a question and to demonstrate your understanding of both the question and the information you use to discuss the ideas raised by the question. In answering your assignment questions, you are doing more than simply presenting the facts or a set of ideas. You will be expected to work with the information to enable you to discuss, explain, analyse critically, and draw some conclusions. So, what is different about doing social research, and why do we need to think a bit more about it as students within our own disciplinary areas? As students in sociology, social policy, political science, economics, social anthropology, criminal justice, social work and so on, we need first of all to apply our everyday student research skills and experience to the topic of social research itself. This may be a bit surprising and may not be something that you expected to be doing, but we will try to make it worthwhile and to show you how important this is as you begin to think about your own social research. As with all good assignments, we begin with a title and an introduction. We will then include an example, which which will run through this section and serve to illustrate the points that are being made. We will also suggest some activities to help you think about your own research topic. There will also be places where you are directed to other sections of the book, which will help you to think through the points made in relation to your own social research. So our assignment title might be something like, what is social research and what are the ideas, theories and perspectives that influence the way in which social research is carried out? To address this question, we will be discussing the following in this chapter. The nature of the subject matter of social research. What is the social world? As part of the social world, what do we or what can we know about it? As a human being and part of the social world, what is the relationship of a social researcher to the social world he is studying? What is there to study, to find out about? Ontology, and why do people see things differently? Thinking about what there is to study, how can we do it? What ways are there of looking at the social world? Epistemology, I always forget that word, sorry, that can help us to think about what we want to study and how we can do it. What is ontology? Ontology is a science of what is, of the kinds and structures of objects, properties, events, processes, and relations in every area of reality. Smith, 2003. What is epistemology? It is a theory of knowledge and how we know things. What are we trying to do when we social research? How can theories help us in our social research? What does this mean for me as a social researcher? What is the nature of the subject matter of social research? What is the social world? As social scientists, we begin by thinking about what interests us in the world in which we live. We can say that we are interested in the social aspects. We talk about human beings being social animals, having the physical characteristics of many other animals, but it is our social characteristics that make us human beings. When social scientists talk about something being social, they are usually talking about a situation or context where there is relationship and interaction between two or more people. Interaction and social relationships depend on language, the main means of communication between people, as the way in which we are able to be social beings. It is the language of relating and interacting that enables us to act together, to organise ourselves into social groups and units, and to make and put into effect group decisions. As human beings, we have many social experiences in common with others who live in different geographical locations, or even in different times. For example, learning, work and family life. Although the particular form or set of ideas about such social experiences may be different, there are likely to be similarities, and this enables us to identify some common and key aspects of a social world. However, we are not just social beings, we are also individuals. Each person, as a unique individual, has a sense of self, the specific and personal way that he or she interacts with others. This enables us as individuals to reflect on our own relationships and interactions with others and to tell our own story. Based on our own perspective of social reality as it appears to us describe, try to explain, and sometimes challenge other people's behaviour. And their behaviour may in turn affect the way we feel about them and about ourselves, just as our behaviour may affect them. It is this that social sciences are interested in, social scientists. The social relationship between individuals and the social world, and how and why the social world is and becomes as it is. C. Wright Mills, a famous American sociologist, describes this as a sociological imagination. We have come to know that every individual lives, from one generation to the next, in some society, that he lives without a biography, and that he lives it out within some historical sequence. By the fact of his living, he contributes, however minutely, to the shaping of this society and to the course of history, even as he is made by society and its historical push and shove. The sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relations between the two within society. That is its task and its promise. Think about it. The family is often studied and talked about as a social unit, one in which different members of the family have their own roles in relation to each other, but together they make up a whole. But each individual has their own experience of the family unit itself. If you have brothers and sisters, you may already be well aware that they have had different experiences within your family to you, and may recount common family stories with quite a different slant. Whose story is the real story? It is clear then that one of the particularly interesting things about being a social scientist and a social researcher is that we are studying something of which we are part. We are, for example, as a grandmother, I have had an experience of children being brought up in a range of different family units, and from my experience, I would find it hard to argue that children brought up by two biological parents always do better than those brought up in other family situations. My experiences of spending time with young children has also helped me to develop my practical skills in relating to and caring for young children. As social researchers, we may need to reflect on the knowledge and skills we have gained from our experience and how this influences what we are interested in and what we do. Theoretical knowledge. Having a theory or set of ideas helps us to work out a response to a problem or to explain an aspect of our social world. For example, if I have a theory, that there are a number of different factors that affect the way a child develops, including the people the child lives with on a day-to-day basis, the school they go to, the neighbourhood they live in, and so on, then I am likely to try to explain the behaviour of young people in these terms, and not simply in terms of their family composition. As social researchers, we can begin to identify the theories we use in everyday life and the theories that are used by others studying the same aspects of the social world. Empirical knowledge. This is knowledge based on available research evidence, data that have been gathered to answer research questions or test hypotheses which can be checked through further research. For example, one of the headlines in example A21, teenage gang shooting blamed on family breakdown, heads a report on a piece of research that asked people what they thought was to blame for an increase in gun-related crime among young men. 80% of the 1,000 people aged over 18, interviewed, agreed with the statement that one factor is family breakdown and the lack of discipline in the home. This research tells us what people think. It does not tell us whether gun crime is caused by family breakdown and lack of discipline in the home. Another piece of research may help us explore this further. As social researchers, we need to develop the skills to enable us to gather data, to answer the research questions, or test hypotheses, to develop knowledge-based theories. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for today, so thank you for listening, and as always, any comments, much appreciated. I'll hopefully see you soon.